Hello there. Okay, this is a kind of fast podcast. I just got to talk to you about Syria, and I would like to have had more time to prepare this, but it's busy. A good friend of mine is just about to arrive on the train, and it's a busy day, so you'll have to just take it as it comes. And I hope it's helpful. Well, it's just some distressing, really. The investigating committee that's looking at the killings in Latakia, they were supposed to bring out their report just day before yesterday. They've delayed that for 3 months, which is too much, really. Meanwhile, the killings still go on. A couple of days ago, there were another 13 Alawites killed. The killings go on silently. They're not noticed in the international media. Okay. On a daily basis, now I'm going to quote to you from my Alawite friend. I haven't got as many sources to quote this time. This particular friend I've been quoting to you from before. He's very senior. And he says, on a daily basis, around 50 people are either kidnapped or killed. Either kidnapped or killed. They do have a government now, but until today, no clear number of how many have been killed in Latakia. And there's no access to the coast. It's completely stopped. The killing doesn't stop. This is my friend's words. They got the reaction from the idiots who thought the Russians would intervene. What he means is, there's this guy Jabba who lives in Russia and others who participated in encouraging the uprising against the counter-revolution, if you like, and of course. But the Russians are not noted for their kindness of heart. When you start a fight, you make sure you have ammunition and allies. HTS were very clever. There were 200,000 Alawite soldiers who were dismissed. Hundreds of thousands of kids now are starving and are so thin that they have to look for ribbons to hold their trousers up. This is what he's saying to me. I swear to God, some people are eating grass. Well, that often happens, doesn't it, when times of starvation. See it in Gaza. People make sort of little salads out of grass. People are starving. So the Alawites, any Alawites who can leave the country, leave the country. The problem is that many of them do not have passports. Every day they go to the passport place in Latakia. They go to the passport office and they see a queue of 1,000 people queuing up to try and get passports. But anyone who can get a passport today does. Then he's talking about the new government. To make the new government, just been formed, appear representative, they throw in an Alawite guy and a Christian woman. I mean, there was actually, curiously, there was already one Alawite in the old government. He's still there, the Minister of Transport. But he's an Islamist Alawite, which is unusual. So, and then I asked him about this controversy between Israel and the Turks in what we in the West call the T4 base, near Homs, really. He said, I don't see how Israel will accept the Turks. The Turks are trying to move into an huge old Syrian military base and take it for their own. The kind of thing they've done when they've invaded parts of Iraq and set up bases in Dahuk. It's sort of invasion by stealth. They've got bases in Kurdish Iraq, and now they're doing the same sort of thing in Syria. So they call it Qaidat al-Tayfor, the Arabs, near Homs. It's one of the most strategic military bases in Syria, he says. It's right on the M2, Damascus-Baghdad highway. You know, you've got the M4 going north and south, the M2 going east and west. It's in West Palmyra, the key link between Syria and Iraq. Unless the US put significant pressure on Israel to accept the Turks there, then Israel's not going to accept it. But here's the thing, the US is putting pressure on Israel. And then he says to me, I didn't know Erdogan had leverage with Trump. Apparently he does. Well, he does. In Syria, we call this base Tayyaf. The word T4 comes from an English word. Well, yeah, that's what we call it. It's called T4 anyway. But what is important about the Turks holding this base is it means the Turks are in charge of stopping Iranian influence from the West. This is the main access from Iraq into Syria. Yeah, so this is what he was saying to me. Now, he also said, by the way, that there are rumors of a visit. Well, these rumors go on and on and on. By Jolani to Saudi Arabia at the same time as the U.S. president. Well, that's not a new rumor, but it's just, yeah. Then he talked a little about the south in Dera. There have been troubles there in the last few days, but basically it's quite, the troubles are not anything significant. Some of the clans are clashing. They're both loyal to Ahmed al-Auda, the guy who entered Damascus on the 8th before Jolani did, you know. So two factions exchanged fires. Well, the rumors are that it was a big deal, but it wasn't. They're both meant to be factions under his control. He's the UAE, United Arab Emirates man, and Russia's man. He was anti-regime. I hate the word regime, but anyway, that's what my friend called him. And the Russians adopted him in the south during the Civil War, and he answered to the Russians from 2018, essentially called himself under the Free Syrian Army, but he was under the Free Syrian Army when the NRAS started in 2011. In 2018, the Russians organized a reconciliation with the Syrian government, and they gave him the 8th Brigade of the Syrian Army. And when Bashar was there, the hierarchy was Bashar, but in truth, he was answerable to Russia. He was in charge of Dera governorate, effectively. They don't call themselves now the 8th Brigade, of course, but they were the 8th Brigade of the 6th Corps of the Syrian Army. In December 2014, he was leading what they used to call the Southern Operation Room, a coalition of rebels, and they met with Jolani at that time. They call him, this Ahmed al-Audi, they call him the Syrian chameleon. Anyway, he runs the south. Well, south that isn't controlled by blooming Israel. He's really number 2 in terms of power in Syria. Okay, he's financed by the United Arab Emirates and backed by Russia. Interesting. He and Jolani are both young men. Anyway, isn't much to say. It's a bit of pressure. Yes, I mean, it puts pressure on the government to behave itself, I suppose. There have been these clashes in Dera with local rebels. But the coast is like a disaster area. People are afraid of being brought down from buses. You know, they get on a bus, they're being afraid of brought down and shot. It's awful. So this Ahmed al-Auda, the United Arab Emirates, is backing him. He's key. In a way, it's a good cop, bad cop act. You know, the UAE backing Ahmed al-Auda and the Saudis backing the president, Jalani. Al-Shara. This is name is nowadays. So the Saudis are supporting Al-Shara. And the UAE are kind of supporting the opposition to Al-Shara in the shape of Ahmed al-Auda. But he's not opposition exactly, because you have these two power bases, one Saudi Arabia's man, one United Arab Emirates man, good cop, bad cop. And if Al-Shara doesn't behave the way the coalition of powers that are meddling in Syria now want, you know, the big powers, Qatar, Turkey, United States, Russia, Israel. If it doesn't behave, then Israel can be the spearhead for, and you've got Ahmed al-Auda standing in the wings. So back to the coast, the Alawites, concerning the Alawite situation. I mean, the investigating committee extended their mandate for 3 months to buy time, and the UN envoy Peterson was waiting for the results, he said, in 30 days. Now, they've given themselves another 3 months, extended the mandate there. Yes, it's interesting. They're being squeezed. It's interesting, too, that the U.S. is squeezing the new Syrian government a bit. The Syrian diplomatic mission has been downgraded to G3. The U.S. doesn't recognize the new Syrian government. So it does and it doesn't. You know, it sort of is being cautious about it. I did speak briefly to a guy from HTS, and he was saying he attended the event in the People's Castle for the establishment of the new government. And the new ministers have no power at all. They're appointed people. No clear names of anybody with power. So it's interesting. This HTS guy, right? He's upset with HTS. He was saying, my mother was alone at home. She's 80 years old. The militia came fully masked, saying, we want to check the car in the garage. But it was a 20-year-old car. They wanted to take the car. It's like they're behaving like a mafia group. And he's saying this is a recent development. Some places are managing to cleanse themselves of HTS people. I mean, Sunni places, because in the island of Arwad, is it called, off the coast there, they pushed them out last week, so they could take control of their own affairs. There was some confusing stuff about ISIS and a group from HTS. That the ISIS people who have joined HTS are being given the management of the borders. They provide them with facilities so the borders are being looked after by the foreign fighters. these groups are getting very well established on the ground, the foreign fighters. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and the Iranians are still there. I mean, al-Shara's brother is liaising with the Iranians. Hussein al-Banda. I don't know. So people are talking about a deal going on somehow between Iranian intelligence and Turkish intelligence. I don't know whether that's a lot of nonsense. But essentially, Syria is a mess. Syria is a mess. There are talks. I mean, what's the United States' interest in all this? It's very confusing because it's confusing, difficult to see what the USA wants, and things are still a little up in the air. I mean, al-Shara is consolidating his power. He's not going anywhere. The Alawites are still being killed on the coast. Poor wretches aren't going anywhere. And you have the southern area. Dera is kind of like an independent fiefdom. I don't know. It's troubling. If you can work it out, you're a better man than I am, or woman. I find it, well, it's chaos, isn't it? It's chaos up to a point. There's still no true stability. And I still remember my old Alawite friend who told me, in Syria we can cope with war, we can cope with peace, but we can't cope with chaos. We need an end to chaos in Syria. God bless you and keep you. Thank you for listening.